Госпожо Бънева, благодаря ви. В следващата част започваме така по-задълбочено въведение в темата. И на първо място искам да поканя д-р Джейн Муита, която е представител на UNICEF в България. По обясними причини отдадеността им на работата с деца ги прави също естествен привърженик и организация, която подкрепя инициативите на дигитално-медийната грамотност. Заповядайте.
Good morning. Good morning, all of you. It's a nice morning. Today is not as cold as it was the other few days, so it is a good time to talk about the issues that we are talking about today. And I'm really, really honored to be here representing UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, but more importantly, just to congratulate you all for all the work that you're doing in relation to making it better for the world. I would not even go through talking, congratulating you individually, but I also know that there are young people and children who may be online and listening. And it is really important for us and my pleasure to be able to participate in this particular panel and to talk about some of the things the United Nations, not just UNICEF, is doing in order to make it better and to have a better world after all these problems that we are facing. I would like to say that one cannot start talking about anything today without talking about the challenges that we are facing because of COVID-19. However, although these challenges have made it very difficult for us to socialize, including today, looking at all of you sitting 2 meters apart, while we should be hugging and really exchanging communication in a different way. It has changed our lives. It has challenged even the way we enjoy or have leisure. It has changed even the way we communicate with our children. But it has not taken away how we work together. And I think you heard it from the ambassador. It has not stopped us from collaborating, to communicate, to innovate. In fact, it has made us become even more innovative. More importantly, it is helping us to reimagine the future we want. And that is really critical. Now, today I was asked to talk about the topic, which is also dear to my heart, how UNICEF, what kind of initiatives that UNICEF supports that are related to media literacy. But before I start talking about that, I would like to say that this week or this weekend was very exciting for us in the United Nations. The United Nations turned 75. If you all remember that in those 75 years, the UN was established to broker peace and security. If you think about media literacy, if you go back and think about misinformation, you think about fake news and their contribution to insecurity and spoiling peace, really then the UN still has a lot to do. And that is why one of the things that the UN is looking at is how will the future look? What will the safety and security look like, including with the information that is coming out? Now, my organization, UNICEF, also during this weekend, did one great thing, brought youth together in a global youth mediathon. It helped young people, young creators of content, to reimagine a better world for every child. You can imagine, and youth are very creative. Fortunately, Bulgaria was represented, and there was a lot of work that took place. One of my colleagues, Ivo, was there as one of the mentors for these young people, And it is one of the ways that we are creating capacity and knowledge that we as Bulgarians then can use in order to learn. And people like Ivo are available from our organization to be able to participate, where we can create more knowledge on media literacy. I mentioned that the UN is working globally to equip today's youth and as agents of positive social change. When I went to school a long time ago, the only way we were doing positive social change was community level participation, working together and really changing the behaviors. But now we have to do it online. So we have to be more creative. And those are the kinds of things that we are thinking about together, including today. Dear guests, we know that the multiple crises that the world is facing today, one of the biggest ones is excessive, or what we call infodemics. Media literacy can no longer just be a soft skill. It has to be an essential skill, and even more, it has to be urgent. Why? Because even as the ambassador said this morning, critical thinking will be required for us to build resistance to fake news. Digital competencies will be required to develop resilience, especially when we are physically and socially interconnected. We are not connected physically, but we are connected in different other ways. Emotional intelligence is also required to preserve our mental state. And remember what is happening to young people as they go through all this content. And a healthy mind is important for changing the world. So at UNICEF, we are trying to reimagine a better world for children, young people, families, communities, especially after this crisis of COVID-19. And we believe that actually media literacy is one of those core priorities that we have to place in our initiatives. It is important, however, to research so that we can choose wisely. We must look at where the sources of information are, especially when we focus on young people. Which are the platforms that they are getting their information from? What are the channels that are being used for communication, or which they are using themselves for communication, especially so that we know how their behaviors and opinions are being molded. It is also important to know who are the gatekeepers that are stopping the things that we are passing that are correct. Who are those gatekeepers? How are they interfering and reducing the potential for better citizenship? Now, if I come back to UNICEF, we've been working quite hard in our partnerships. And we have done quite a bit with our colleagues that we have partnered with in both media literacy and development of digital skills. Because we believe these two are enablers of national human capital. So it is not only the literacy to read and write, but to be able to judge whether what you're getting is correct. When we were young, we trusted our teachers. They're the only ones who were right. But now there's too much right out there that you question even the teacher. So how do we help those young people to make the decisions? These years, the last few years, we have worked, for example, with the Association of European Journalists. And our aim in working together is actually to create a critical mass that understands what we can do together to improve the world. With the Association of European Journalism, we looked at ethical reporting on children. This is important because we, as media creators, we have also a responsibility to do it ethically. So this is one of the tools that we have really worked on. With the Coalition of Media Literacy, we also created a guidebook for adolescents, for content creation. Because if we are able to create that kind of pool of young people who can create the correct content, then it also makes a difference. With partners like Teen Station and school media, we did peer-to-peer trainings on digital skills for teenagers. These are important. And what I'm trying to say is that some of the work that we have done together is in a journey, not only to learn, but to have experiences within our own context that we can fall back to. With partners, we talked about business. With Vivacom, Lesonator, Sofia Tech Park, we actually held a hackathon, a youth hackathon on digital solutions, helps youth to use their creative minds to come up with solutions that we as adults sometimes even find difficult to come up with. But even as we move along, we have also supported in this country platforms where youth can engage. And I would like to refer to you to the U report, which is a good platform that we will be able to use. It's a strategic platform that we can use for content sharing with young people, but also to get information back from them, which is also one of the tools that we've been able to establish during this time. Together, we have also created knowledge, because what is important is if we are able to generate information that we can use for programming. We did undertake a study to understand what channels the youth are collecting information through. And this report is really, really important, and we have shared it. We have been sharing it, and we'll continue to share, because that kind of information is useful for making decisions. With our regional office recently, we have just come up with guidelines on how to counter mass misinformation, because it's really, really important not only to do it on a small scale, but to look at how we can do it in a global scale at mass communication. But together, with all these efforts that we have put, the investments, the partnerships, most importantly, it will depend on each one of us, stakeholders, individuals, government, other state institutions, businesses, media, youth themselves, to take responsibility. Each one of us to be committed to build fundamental digital transferable skills for our children. And media literacy should be on top of those skills that we are thinking about. So I call upon all of you that we continue to work together to deliver on our plans. So we will be developing a strategy today, or coming up with the first steps towards a strategy. But strategies only become important if they are implemented. So if we are able to do that together, we should be able to achieve and have a better world, both for us and for our children. I thank you.